I'm incredibly excited to start my new role at Yahoo tomorrow. The new role, Yahoo's CEO. The person, Marissa Mayer, who was making the switch from being a vice president at Google to becoming the 5th CEO in as many years of the beleaguered internet pioneer. Within seconds, Twitter sphere was abuzz. As you can see, Mayer's appointment created quite a stir for several reasons. Her pay package at $5.4 million plus is comparable to what her male predecessors at Yahoo were drawing. Now that is a big deal given the fact that traditionally pay packages for women CEOs tend to lag that of their male counterparts. And the table thumping continued, and that's because Mayer brings up the tally of current female CEOs in the Fortune 500 list to 20. 7 hours later at 8:24 p.m. on the same day. Another piece of good news today. Zach Bogue and I are expecting a new baby boy. More jubilation. Mayer's appointment was seen as a victory for women in the workforce. The popular sentiment was that things must really be turning around for women at work if corporations were hiring pregnant CEOs with barely 3 months to deliver. And then a Fortune magazine exclusive hit the headlines with Mayer saying, "I'd like to stay in the rhythm of things. My maternity leave will be a few weeks long and I'll work through it." What followed were cries of indignation. Was Mayer underestimating the challenges of motherhood? Was she making other pregnant working women look bad? Now, Mayer's approach to motherhood has divided the women's empowerment camp. While one side said Mayer's pregnancy is a non-issue and the focus must be on her effort to turn Yahoo around, the other side cried foul because Mayer's comments seemed to reinforce the motherhood penalty. Was Mayer afraid that if she didn't power through her pregnancy and her maternity leave that she'd be viewed as unprofessional? Here's a quick roundup of some of the key issues that motherhood presents for working women.
The roles are difficult because you're trying to juggle 5 or 6 full-time roles and trying to be good at all of them. I was looking at all the male CEOs of my generation. Most of them had wonderful stay-at-home wives. We don't have a stay-at-home wife. Okay, we have husbands. We don't have a stay-at-home wife. Had we had the option of also having a stay-at-home wife, we wouldn't have this debate.
A couple of people that I did meet told me that flexibility is not really going to be available, and with that, coupled with Bombay's commute times or any big city's commute times, makes really a 12-hour day, which is very difficult for a young mother to put in.
Many of these women, in fact, have very fulfilling lives outside of work. They have kids, they have a husband, they have mothers and mother-in-laws, and so they have a lot to do when they leave work. And so we also heard that many of them say, I have enough in my life right now. Maybe when my kids are grown, I can move up the ladder.
The person's qualification may be the same, but the experience may not be able to justify the same salary. Why? Because the woman, by the natural societal cause of actions and reactions, has taken a break, has probably gone the family way and has not been able to catch up as quickly.
So this is what goes into the motherhood penalty. A working mother either consciously tries to avoid it, and maybe that's what Marissa Mayer is trying to do. Others unconsciously fall prey to it and opt out of the workforce when the pressure gets too much. Anne-Marie Slaughter described the situation perfectly when she wrote Why Women Still Can't Have It All. This June's cover story of The Atlantic raised a storm. Women have been chasing a mirage, declared Anne-Marie Slaughter. After 2 very successful but stressful years as the Director of Policy Planning for the US State Department, Slaughter argues that it's not actually possible for a working mother to have it all, and that society presents her with a double.
So if we have to choose between making partner and having 3 nannies, or taking a more flexible legal job and spending time with our children, we're going to do the latter, but that what we're saying to them is somehow that's not a valid choice.
Now, this candor has ruffled many feathers. Slaughter concedes that without the single-minded fierceness of the early feminist movement, to have it all women like her wouldn't be where they are today. But she has called for an urgent rethink. Women, she feels, are taking too much upon themselves, and society is doing precious little to make the ride easier.
Unless you make it possible for the women who work for you to balance their work and family in the way they want to, with flexibility, with all sorts of different kinds of options, you are going to lose a huge amount of talent, and that's not going to be smart for you, for your business, for the society.
And life for working mothers in the U.S. is actually quite tough. In fact, the laws governing flexibility for would-be mothers in the U.S. are abysmal. The U.S. is one of the 5 countries in the world where legislation does not provide for any paid maternity leave. Of course, some employers do have provisions for paid leaves, but even that number has come down from 27% in 1998 to just about 16% in 2008. Now, on the other hand, Nordic nations like Denmark, Norway, Sweden are the most generous when it comes to maternity leave. In fact, Denmark and Norway even have quotas for paternity leave, and Finland makes life easier by guaranteeing subsidized daycare for children below the age of 3. And while the number of working women in these countries is a direct reflection of these policies, there have been some drawbacks. Number 1, smaller businesses who cannot afford these incentives or benefits or generosities tend not to hire women. When women return after a long leave, a special effort needs to be put in place to bridge the skill gaps. Paychecks tend to take a hit, leading to a gender-based divide that women seldom overcome. So clearly there is no magic solution. There are many pieces that need to come together to complete the jigsaw. In India, we have 3 months maternity leave, but is that enough? What are some of the strategies at work in Indian companies that are making a difference? We'll find out after this quick break.
The fact that you have to have leadership that walks the talk.
And it was very reassuring to hear that whether I do something or not, it doesn't have an impact on my performance assessment.
You know, childcare is much more of a mature industry in the West. In India, it is still very much in its early stages. When you see such differences, organizations need to step in.
I think there's a really deep irony to the fact that actions women are taking, and I see this all the time, with the objective of staying in the workforce actually lead to their eventually leaving. Here's what happens. We're all busy. Everyone's busy. A woman's busy. And she starts thinking about having a child. And from the moment she starts thinking about having a child, she starts thinking about making room for that child. How am I going to fit this into everything else I'm doing? And literally from that moment, she doesn't raise her hand anymore. She doesn't look for a promotion. She doesn't take on the new project. She doesn't say, me, I want to do that. She starts leaning back. Everyone who's been through this, and I'm here to tell you, once you have a child at home, your job better be really good to go back, because it's hard to leave that kid at home. Your job needs to be challenging. It needs to be rewarding. You need to feel like you're making a difference. And if 2 years ago, you didn't take a promotion and some guy next to you did, you're going to be bored because you should have kept your foot on the gas pedal. Don't leave before you leave.
And there are studies that support Sheryl Sandberg's point of view. In the tug-of-war between a career and home, women often want one arrangement but tend to settle for another. A study by Ernst & Young finds that 55% of career-oriented stay-at-home moms would actually prefer to be working. And of the mothers who are working, about 71% equate their work with something done only to pick up a paycheck. So given these realities, there are 2 challenges. 1, to get career-oriented moms back into the talent pool, and 2, corporations need to offer better work opportunities for women so that the job remains challenging and rewarding. Well, we caught up with the managements of P&G, HCL and Tata Sons to find out how they're addressing these issues.
When I was on maternity leave, I remember one of the office boys coming home with a letter in his hand, and that was close to the end of my maternity leave, and I was wondering what could have my boss possibly sent to me in a sealed envelope when I'm still on maternity leave. And I opened that envelope and it was actually my salary increment letter with a very encouraging note on it. Now the last thing you expect when you're on maternity leave or you're even thinking about is your salary increment, but to have the note hand delivered with a personal note written on it saying that we're waiting for you to come back is something that I still deeply cherish and something that will stay with me for a very long time, that gesture.
And 12 years since, things have only improved. Maternity leave now stands at 6 months with options for extension, and there is more room for flexible work hours and even location-free roles. But most importantly, this culture is in place because it's being reinforced by the top management.
The secret sauce, if you will, is flexibility. People hesitate, somehow thinking that maybe an organization will consider them less professional if they've got a personal need. This comes back down to the culture you establish, the fact that you have to have leadership that walks the talk. People see in our organization that what gets rewarded at the end of the day is results and performance. You've got to reinforce those behaviors. You've got to give forum which makes it easy for people to feel not threatened to talk about their issues.
And Sonali Sood knows this. She's been able to have an open chat with her boss about her maternity leave, and this has made a big difference in reassuring her.
The message to me was just focus on making this a priority, and we're there to support you. We had a couple of discussions on what it means for work, and it was very reassuring to hear that whether I do something or not, it doesn't have an impact on my performance assessment, and therefore the message was that you're not expected to do anything extreme or do anything differently in the situation. So we have a work from home program, we have a reduced work schedule as well. So that's very reassuring to know that all of those programs exist. I haven't figured out which one of those makes sense, it's too early, but just to know that that support exists gives you a lot of confidence that you will be fine when you're back.
So creating an enabling culture is the foundation. The next step is building infrastructure to make the juggle between home and work easier for working moms. The biggest concern for any working mother is what to do with her toddler when she's at work. If she's in a nuclear family, and most young mothers increasingly in urban India are, she has to figure out domestic help or affordable daycare, both of which are hard to come by. So when organizations like HCL create infrastructure like this at the workplace itself, it's a big help.
The pressures and pulls that we see for women in India are very different from the pressures and pulls we see in Germany, are very different from what you see in the US. And I think organizations need to be sensitive to that. So where childcare is much more of a mature industry in the West, in India it is still very much in its early stages. When you see such differences, organizations need to step in and bridge the gap.
And this sort of assistance really strikes a chord when one reads about working mothers in Britain giving up full-time jobs because daycare takes up 27% of the family's income. Unfortunately, in such a case, it just doesn't make economic sense for women to work, and so a lot of them drop out. Now, what can organizations do to bring them back? That's on the other side of the break. Stay tuned.
The corporates need to figure out, hey, listen, somebody's going out from my system and doing exactly what they want. I could have maneuvered around. I could have, created way for them.
So you're not coming back from just nappies and diapers. You've got this dose of corporate gyan. In India, India, most companies offer the basic 12 weeks maternity leave.
Personally, as a mother, you face challenges. 3 months is when your child is still on mother's milk. So to adjust that schedule.
And when the pressure gets to be too much, there isn't a real choice when it comes to giving up on one of her 2 jobs.
I did not have a very good support system to care for her when I went to work. And I think I wanted to spend more time with her also, and I think she wanted to spend more time with me, so I decided to take a career break.
And Ruma Rao doesn't regret her decision. But after a break of a year and a half, when she felt her home life was more sorted and decided to get back to work, it wasn't easy.
Acceptance is low for people who've taken a break, especially women who have young children. You know? Employers tend to think that they'll not be very serious about their careers because they have many other responsibilities. But I think the biggest challenge that women face when they want to come back is that organizations offer absolutely no flexibility. These women are at a stage of life where they would want some flexibility, and that's generally not very forthcoming.
So women lose out on careers that they very much want, but the bigger loss is to the corporation, which loses out on an experienced talent pool that it had invested in. Now, realizing that this is a crucial gap to fill, the HR team at Tata Group came up with a second career internship program to help women transition back.
A chunk of work that they could get their teeth into, feel professionally and personally satisfied at the achievement and the accomplishment of that project or that task, which was significant enough for the organization. The price tag on it was at a level which reflected that value and not the same as a summer internship or a unpaid internship or an opportunity to just get some experience. The flexibility and freedom to do things in that phase, which allowed them to manage the transition with the various stakeholders, including their children, if that was the reason for the break, to be able to feel that they could do these things, it was valuable and worthwhile for them and the organization.
After a 5-year sabbatical to take care of her daughter Anushka, Roli Singh spent a year and a half doing various assignments under SCIP. Now she's the General Manager HR at Tata Housing Development Company and understands well from personal experiences the challenges a working mom looking to make a comeback might face.
If there is a lady across me and she's taken a 3-4 year break and she's applied saying, no, all is set at home and I want to join back. At the back of my mind is a question that she's going to join back, it's going to be difficult because it's like, you know, you're catching someone, you say, I'll be able to catch. But when the weight comes, you know, you buckle down. So I know, you know, she'll start well, but when the pressure comes, there will be a buckle down factor that happens.
So Tata SCIP is designed specifically to help women gradually transition back to full-time work by sending them back to school.
SCIP has this one very unique advantage that it has put you gradually through those phases. You know, you've done a 3, 4, 5 hour, you've gone back into the corporate environment, you've re-picked up your skills, you know, in the 3 years that you're not working or 2 years you're not working. Everything changes, you know, computers change, operating systems change, you know, even short abbreviations change. So you're not coming back from just nappies and diapers, you've got this dose of corporate gyan from a very, very exclusive level. So that really matches very well and gives a huge boost to the lady, and it really fits in very well.
Over 100 women have benefited from the SCIP, and the success of the initiative has led the Tata Group to make it a year-round recruitment program.
We had a lady who was a SCIP intern for the first batch, and she did one project, and we were looking for something more for her. In the meanwhile, she developed the confidence to set up an establishment of her own, womaned by women of a similar background. People who had taken a break but were qualified chartered accountants, and she's actually providing service to companies, individuals from that platform and leveraging the idea by herself in an entrepreneurial way.
And a lot of women today are taking this route of setting up their own enterprises when they find the confines of the workplace very stifling.
I exited the IT industry just before my 40th birthday. I did feel that I wanted new challenges that I would find difficult to find in a corporate environment. Secondly, I did want to have
the flexibility to have work-life balance the way I wanted it, yet I didn't want to compromise on the kind of money that I could make by going to work. And there is so much of opportunity in India that I was pretty sure that I could find something that met all of this criteria if I was on my own, and I wanted to be a CEO eventually, so it was like, hey, why not now?
Now, a lot of working mothers are thinking like Jessie Paul today. We bring you Sairi Chehal's story. She's been toying with the idea of turning entrepreneur for as long as she can remember. But the idea for her latest venture, Flexi Moms, came to her when she began raising her daughter, Vera.
Special costumes are for special days. Let's go to my house. I have a new game. We won't take Pepper. No!
Sairi Chehal's Flexi Moms is a portal that functions like an online classified for flex work opportunities. With over 250 corporations on board, Flexi Moms has helped over 1 lakh women find part-time work. Flexi Moms also actively guides women to set up their own businesses, helping them align their ventures with their personal values and skills.
The biggest strength that being an entrepreneur gives you today is flexibility. You decide your work day. You may work still 18 hours a day, but you still know that you can go pick up your daughter from school. You can still be around when you're required. And that's a big strength, and that's where the corporates need to figure out, hey, listen, somebody's going out from my system and doing exactly what they want. I could have maneuvered around. I could have, created way for them. And it's a good time to create. There's a joy of creation that I think everyone should have access to, and women specifically. It's harder than usual because there are no pre-templatized versions. You may fail. There is also a stigma attached to failure, but I still think it's worth it, because if you don't do it now, when will you do it?
Well, some things are definitely worth the risk. Now, taking a chance to create a more balanced life for yourself while your business delivers a service to society is definitely a risk worth taking. On that note, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of What Women Really Want. We'll see you again next week. Till then, from the entire team, goodbye and thanks for watching.